All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring the outstanding, frankly mind-boggling technological achievements of our ancient ancestors, feats that we would seriously struggle to replicate today. It's actually fascinating how things accomplished with basic bricks and stones in the distant past often don't get the credit they deserve. It really makes you wonder if some profound knowledge has just entirely slipped through the cracks of history.
When you stop and look at the incredible stones and artifacts left behind, we absolutely have to ask ourselves a pretty fascinating question. Have we lost ancient technologies? As we dive into the historical evidence today, you're going to quickly see exactly why so many people feel like we might be missing major pieces of our own technological history. To make sense of these 12 distinct historical anomalies, we're going to group them into 4 really intriguing thematic buckets. We've got engineering the impossible, masterpieces of ancient genius, anomalies out of time, and finally, codes and cosmic mysteries. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Part 1, Engineering the Impossible. We're talking massive, macro-engineering mysteries here. Our first mystery takes us all the way to Peru. Naupa Huaca translates to the Temple of the Ancients, and it features this megalithic throne carved with impeccable precision from a single lump of blue stone. But here is the absolute jaw-dropper. The slope of this throne perfectly matches the slope of the Great Pyramid of Giza, accurate to within half a degree. I mean, how on earth did two ancient, totally disconnected cultures achieve the exact same mathematical precision? And that same impossible precision, we find it across the globe at Abu Gharaib in Egypt. 2,000 years ago, ancient workers drove perfectly smooth holes through several inches of solid granite. Now, historians tell us they only had stone tools, wooden tools, and maybe some copper saws, but none of those would have even put a dent in this kind of rock. Even more mysteriously, they left absolutely zero tool marks behind on the incredibly smooth sides of the stone. Honestly, trying to recreate this today would require diamond-tipped hydraulic drills.
But impossible engineering isn't just about carving stone, right? It's about sheer, unbelievable scale. Just consider the 8,000-year-old steppe geoglyphs in Kazakhstan. These are geometric mounds spread across 400 square miles that can only be seen from the sky. They're kind of like the Nazca lines, crosses, circles, squares, and lines ranging from 200 to 1,400 feet in size. From the ground, they literally just look like piles of dirt. You have to have an aerial vantage point to see the shapes. So how did our ancestors coordinate this without a view from above? And why spend all that time building something you could never fully appreciate from the ground?
Moving right along to Part 2, Masterpieces of Ancient Genius. Now we're zooming in on microengineering and chemistry.
You probably thought the Swiss invented the multi-tool, didn't you? Well, actually, a high-ranking Roman officer had a silver version about 1,500 years ahead of its time. Discovered on the Mediterranean coast back in 2019, this early 3rd century tool features a knife, a fork, a spoon, a spatula, and even a toothpick, all in one. Because it's crafted from silver rather than a cheaper metal, it almost certainly belonged to an elite military officer. It brilliantly showcases that practical, highly compact engineering was valued centuries before modern manufacturing even existed.
And you know, ancient engineering wasn't always just practical. Sometimes it was literally used for a good laugh. Take this ingenious 2,600-year-old prank created by Pythagoras. It's often called the Tantalus cup, and it relies on a completely hidden U-shaped pipe. If you fill it up to a normal level, it's just a regular cup. But if you get greedy and fill it past a certain point, pressure builds up inside that hidden pipe until it simply dumps all your wine right out of the base and into your lap. Okay, but even more stunning than hidden pipes is the fact that the Romans were basically using nanotechnology 1,600 years ago. No microscopes, but they somehow created a glass cup that changes from green to red depending on how the light hits it. The Lycurgus cup actually contains microscopic particles of gold and silver that were added during the glass-making stage. And get this, these particles are only 50 nanometers in diameter. That is 1,000 times smaller than a grain of salt. The chances of this happening by accident are practically zero. This beautiful optical illusion was completely intentional chemistry.
Speaking of intentional chemistry, through a seemingly freak mixture of slag, lime, and damp air, ancient Indians created a rust-proof coating on a massive pillar centuries before deliberate rust-proofing was even a thing. Standing proudly in Delhi, this 22-foot monument has survived 1,500 years totally rust-free. Why? Because its surface is coated in a microscopic layer of a compound called misawite, which perfectly protects the iron beneath from oxygen. Scientists are actually still debating whether this was highly advanced, deliberate metallurgy or just an incredibly fortunate chemical accident.
All right, let's jump into part 3, anomalies out of time. These are the chronological conundrums that really mess with our timeline.
Consider the completely bizarre Coso artifact. Discovered by a group of people hunting for geodes in California in 1961, it presents a total paradox. Now, there is absolutely no mystery about the spark plug inside it. It was made by the Champion Company in the 1920s. We know that for sure. The issue is the iron oxide shell surrounding it. Scientifically speaking, that shell should take 500,000 years to form. While some folks instantly jump to time travel, we'll just impartially note that it stands as a wildly puzzling timeline anomaly.
We see another incredible clash of timelines over in Romania. In 1973, this axe-like aluminum wedge was discovered. And here's the kicker. Labs in both Romania and Switzerland confirmed it was made of aluminum and dated it to be 250,000 years old. That has naturally led some theorists to claim extraterrestrial origins. Why? Because human beings only first manufactured aluminum about 200 years ago. Based on our current historical records, this thing simply shouldn't exist.
Finally, let's wrap things up with part 4, codes and cosmic mysteries. The esoteric enigmas. Moving out into the cosmos for a second, there is this highly debated, totally unexplained geometrical similarity between a landmass on Mars and ancient 5th century Japanese tombs. A 3-year study by the Cydonia Institute argued that the perfect symmetry of this dome and wedge shape on Mars makes it super unlikely to just be natural erosion. But what's even stranger is its identical resemblance to keyhole tombs found in Kofun, Japan. Look, we aren't suggesting ancient space travel here, but the fact that this specific geometric perfection appears in both places, it's a massive curiosity. And while some folks are looking at Mars, others are looking at the ancient skies right here on Earth. It's fascinating that 3,500-year-old Hindi and Sanskrit texts don't just mention flying chariots, they provide highly specific mechanical details. These vimanas are described as rising into the sky, spewing fire and water. But unlike vague, flowery mythology, texts like the Veda give incredibly technical schematics. We're talking 12 pillars, a wheel, control panels, and exactly 300 articulated pivot points. It really makes you wonder what exactly those ancient writers were trying to describe. Bringing things safely back down to Earth, we have this 1763 code carved on England's Shepherd's Monument. It remains totally unsolved, defeating even the great mind of Charles Dickens. The sculptor added these 10 letters beneath a relief based on a famous painting. They aren't Roman numerals, and they don't belong to any known ancient code. For almost 250 years, some of the brightest minds have tried and completely failed to crack this cipher. So, looking at all of this, we are left with one massive question. If our ancestors were capable of this level of undiscovered genius, what else is waiting out there to be found? From geometric mountains meant for the sky to unexplainable artifacts in nanoscale chemistry, it is overwhelmingly clear that the past holds far more technological mastery than we usually give it credit for. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what we think we know about history.